So, YouTubers, here we are on the 31st of March 2023, and Team One did not let us down, even though they ran it to the wire. Slightly, technically ran out of time, but we'll see what the point scoring system is when I total the points up in a minute. So now we've got Team Two, which is ably led by Dan McKenzie. And Dan, can I wish you all the very best of luck? It is Team Two. It is time. So over to you, Dan.
Hi guys, thank you for coming to the meeting today. This is regarding the new car park on Bramley Road, where UK Professional Groundwork. I'll introduce the team. So it's myself, Dan, the project manager. We've got Adam, who's on health and safety, Ismail on traffic management, Gary is on security and welfare, Danny is our logistics manager, and Emmanuel is another site manager with us. First, I'll be passing over to Danny, who's going to explain the location of the cabins that we'll be storing on site throughout the process.
Thanks, Dan. I'm Danny. Hi, guys. This is the location of the cabin. It's allocated 6 cabins, each size by 32 by 10 feet. The purpose of the cabins are main and sub offices and welfare facilities. 25 people involved in this project simultaneously. All cabins has locker system, and around the cabin secured by wood boundary fencing system as well. Back to Dan.
So I'm just going to quickly run over our storage plans. There is a lot of materials we'll be keeping. If you can see to the left of the cabins, there's a redundant factory. We've been actually granted permission from the landlord of that factory. It is due to be demolished, but it's not just yet. So we've been granted permission to actually use this to store materials and tools. They will be kept separate in lockable rooms, the keys which will be kept by myself and site manager. So we can give access only when, of course, first came to us. So they will all be stored in there. Asbestos has been reported in there. There's been a report done on this, but it won't be disturbed. So there shouldn't be any health problems there in terms of our staff using this for storage of materials and tools. So I'll just pass over now to Gary on the site security and welfare for us.
Hi, my name's Gary. I'm part of the team on site, which I deal with security and access, and also welfare. Just to go through the security system we've got in place, we've got a 2-man security guard system. One is based on the gate, and it has a digital system, card reader, or fingerprint reader for contractors. Obviously, a turntile system. So obviously the access, they can't access, obviously, getting into the site without going through that system, and then obviously signing in the register, and then obviously going to work. With visitors, the same thing. If the visitor turns up, they will get to sign in, then they will be escorted probably to the site offices as a visitor, and then be inducted as a site visitor. And the correct PPE will be issued, obviously, if there's boots, and etc. So then escorted around the site, being a site visitor, so they're kept safe. The security system also, we have an out-of-hours system. The site's manned 24 hours. So we have 2 guards in the day, and we have 2 guards in the evening, which patrol inner and outer and the perimeter of the site. So obviously, they keep the site safe and secure and stop any unwanted access at any time. If there is an emergency, there is an out of hours system we've got in place to make sure that, if there's an emergency, it ring a list of names, obviously myself, and if it doesn't get an answer from me, it might ring 3 people. I think then it'll ring other it'll ring Dan, then it could be Adam, and it'll just ring those 3 people. On the last event, if no one answers, then obviously they'll have to one either call the police, or they'll have to speak to the client, which we'll have to do, in the event that no one did attend site. But one of us will come to site, because that's the agreement. We'll rotate that. But yeah, so the site will be secured at all times, and the guard will patrol, rotate in the day. So one would be manned at the gate, dealing with access to the ingress and lorries. So no one will be able to get on site. And the other guard, we've got a mobile guard. So we actually be walking about and obviously keeping an eye. So, and that's that part of it. On the welfare system, obviously, as you know, on the plan, we have the cabin system set up in the compound, which would comply, obviously, welfare for male and female. obviously, changing room for a female, segregated, obviously, and the workers, obviously, a canteen, WCs, obviously, drinking water point, and we'd have a welfare labourer that obviously will control and solely on the welfare for the site area, which would be the toilets, keeping them clean, sanitised, and obviously everything in order, and the site offices. So he's there for that specific reason. He'll be a labourer and he'll be doing that sort of work. But yeah, I'm dealing with sort of like the welfare and keeping an eye on to make sure it's kept tidy, and we comply and make sure it's kept tidy. Thank you very much.
So I'll just pass over to Adam now on health and safety. He's going to quickly run over the emergency arrangements and procedures on site with a fire plan, and he's going to quickly do a touch on the mental health policy as well that we do keep in place.
Yeah, hi, Adam here. So as your health and safety officer, I understand the importance of ensuring the safety of workers and visitors during the construction of our Bramley car park and the entrance project. So I put together some considerations and a detailed plan for emergency procedures and arrangements. But firstly, the fire plan. So what we started off with is by identifying initially potential sources of fire. I'm not going to go over all of these, but if you want to come back to any of them at any time, I can do that. And then we looked at control measures that we're going to be putting in place for those various hazards. Okay, and then we have put together, we've ensured that we've got sufficient fire extinguishers on site, which will be clearly signed, and we will ensure that all fire extinguishers have been checked and maintained correctly. We've established an emergency evacuation plan with clear escape routes, and we will ensure that all our workers on site are trained on the procedures and follow these in case of a fire. So the emergency evacuation procedures are listed. I'm just going to quickly go through the bullet points on these. I'm not going to drill down into it in detail, but again, I'm happy to come back and go into these in more detail if you like. But notification of emergencies, emergency alarms, evacuation, a roll call system, and a system for re-entering after an emergency. So in conclusion, the emergency evacuation plan will be reviewed and updated on a regular basis to ensure that it is effective, and all personnel on site will be familiar with the procedures outlined in this plan and be trained on the proper actions to take place. We've got some additional information on fire. So we will conduct regular fire drills to ensure that all our workers are familiar with the emergency procedures, and we will be using temporary fire detection and alarm systems on site during the construction phase. These will be battery operated smoke alarms, and they will be installed in all temporary buildings, site cabins, and other areas where workers are present. And then fire watch personnel will be assigned to monitor the high-risk areas on the construction site, such as areas where any hot works is being performed. We've implemented measures to also prevent the spread of fires, which I'm happy to drill down into. And we have established a system to report and investigate incidents of fire, no matter how small they are. So just having a quick look at how that will work. So it starts with reporting incidents, investigation, analysis of these, an action plan, and a review that would follow. Our accident plan will follow the standard 3-tier emergency action plan procedure, which would start with minor emergencies, which would require early first aid. We've got a detailed system for that. Moving on to slightly more serious emergencies, we've established a clear procedure for that. And then obviously the 3rd tier, which is more serious incidents, in the event of a major incident, immediate contact emergency services, and we've got a procedure that would follow a more serious incident. We have conducted a risk assessment on the site, the biggest site as a whole, and these include a list of various hazards that are not essentially on our site. Again, I'm not going to run through all of these, but we have got a list of them on the slide on the slide that you can have a look at. And then we've put in place various control measures to deal with those incidents. And then just some other, we put a list up of potential other emergencies that may need to be considered. We've got 12 potential other emergencies that we may need to consider during the construction phase. So in conclusion there, it's essential and important to establish emergency procedures and arrangements for this construction site to make sure that we ensure the safety of our workers and visitors, and a fire plan and accident plan are obviously necessary, as well as identifying emergency situations and implementing control measures to prevent them. And then I'm moving on to a mental health policy. So at UK Professional Groundwork, we take mental health of our employees very seriously, and you'll see why, because I'm going to throw out sticks on a slide afterwards. But we're committed to creating a safe and supportive work environment. And to achieve this, we provide our employees with mental health training. We are committed to continuously monitor and review our mental health policy. And how we achieve this? We achieve it by mental health training for all our employees, regular mental health check-ins, access to counseling and mental health support. We encourage open communication, mental health awareness campaigns we hold on a regular basis, and we have flexible working arrangements when required. We also monitor and review our policy on a regular basis. And I'm just throwing up some statistics here. Some of the more scary ones here are the construction workers are 3 times more likely to take their own life than the average UK worker. But that's why we take our health and safety seriously. I'm going to hand you back to Dan.
So now we're going to move to our traffic management plan. Ishmael's going to run over this and then also go into the signage we'll have placed around the site, which kind of links into the traffic as well. So I'll pass to Ishmael. He'll go over this with you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Hi, guys. My name is Ismail. I'm the traffic management. Traffic and pedestrian management will be planned and then covered during the site induction. A plan of the construction site traffic management plan will also provide at the entrance of visitors and the delivery drivers. Risk to the pedestrian will be minimized by providing separate routes and entrances for the vehicles, and pedestrian physical separation will be used where possible. It will be ensure the side entrance and exits and minimize the traffic hazards on a public road. Any traffic route must not to uneven to better to the slope or slippery that for any person using to the exposed to the risk on their safety. A car park will be provide a privately owned vehicles, preferably access to the direct from the public road, with the vehicle entry to the construction area prevented if applicable, if it's practicable. Parking areas will be clearly signposted for the farm level or with the acceptable gradient will let and not slippery. The site offices and other facilities will be connected to the parking areas pedestrian entrance, avoiding the need for the visitors to cross the site gain access. There will be safe designated pedestrian routes separated from the vehicle routes where the possible, which are viable to all workers' location and are maintained as work progress. We will make use of turning areas of space is tight, and we will try to avoid the need for the reversing the site, ideally with one-way system in a place. And there will be availability of competent of the vehicle machining if reversing required entry onto the side outlet or the pedestrian cannot be completely segregated. Roads should be wide enough for the vehicles using them. Sharp and blind bends should be avoided. Additional control measures such mirrors, stop signs, and signals. We will be used to help the drivers and pedestrians see what is around to the corner. The possible requirement is for the wheel wash and road sweepers. We will consider to keep side and the public roads clear of mud and other debris, avoiding to the creation of the hazard driving condition or nuisance. The likelihood of pedestrian injury will be reduced in areas of ongoing work and suitable temporary control measure. Keep pedestrian and the vehicles apart. The majority of the construction transport accident results will be inadequate for the separation of the pedestrian and the vehicles. This can usually avoid the carefully planning, particularly the design stage and controlling the vehicle operating during the construction work. The following action will be keep the pedestrian and the vehicle apart: entrance and exits, walkways, crossing, pedestrian and obstruction, and the barriers. That's the general. People on site. Employees should take step to make sure the workers are fit and competent of the operative of the vehicle, machines, and attachment that they use in the site. For example, checking when they recruiting drivers, operating, adhering to the contractors, training the drivers and operators, managing the activity of the visiting drivers. People who direct the vehicle movement, signalists must be trained and authorized like traffic marshal. Accidents can also occur when the untrained or experienced workers, drivers, and construction vehicle without authority access to the vehicle should manage the people alerted to the risk. Signs and introduction. Make sure that all drivers and the pedestrian knows and understand the route is the traffic site used to the stand of the road sign where the appropriate. Provide induction training for the drivers, walkers, and the visitors, and the instruction out of the visitor before they visit. The site and signage. Appropriate of the site signage will be available through the site, and the safety signage provides staff when on site. The reference point is that they can consult whenever they need to. The sign will be clearly and legible and will be usable to identify actions that are prohibited, like no access, safeguard that must be followed, example like air protection must be worn, warning hazards, corrosive materials, and to the direct toward the fire exits equipment or the first aid equipment. Using too many signs will be avoided to may cause to the confusion. All safety signs and colors are coded. All safety colors like prohibition, warning, mandatory, emergency, escape, firefighting. We mentioned here the pictures, some pictures. Yeah. Prohibition sign, emergency sign, firefighting signs. Okay, go on. Yes, and the general health and safety law for is on site. Thanks, guys.
So I'm just going to pass to Emmanuel now. He's going to run over the site rules. There is a lot, so he's just going to highlight a few of the main ones that we've picked out that do need to be adhered to on site. So I'll give to Emmanuel.
Hello, so my name is Emmanuel and I'm one of the site manager. I will highlight only a few of them, but all 27 our site rules are important. So one of them is all personnel shall undergo safely induction training when reaching on site. The second one which I want to point out is all visitors must report to the security and will only be allowed through the entry site manager's entrance, whilst on the visitor must wear the appropriate PPE. No smoking is allowed on site apart from the smoking areas. Another one is no alcohol or illegal drugs are to be brought onto the site at all at any time. we have visitors when are coming on site. They have to be escorted all the time. Visitor must sign in the visitor form first when arriving on site. Another one which is so important is permission must be obtained from site manager prior to any work to be carried out on site. All operatives to keep hydrated at all time, especially in the heat time. And one of the important one is no racism will have to take place on site whatsoever. That will result in a removal from site from any position will that person be on. And any signs of asbestos damage to be reported to the supervisor once discovered. Thank you so much. I'll hand over to Dan now.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go back with Danny now, who's going to explain the induction procedure. So I'll give over to Danny for this.
Thanks, Dan. I'm Danny back again. Induction procedures checklist. The procedure site has two types of induction, one for contractors, subcontractors that take time Monday to Friday in the morning 8 to 9. The other induction for site visit. Induction will take place in induction room at the site office. One of the site manager will do the induction. Site induction will cover showing site setup, on-site layout, and pointing about site routes, including exit and entries, emergency exit routes, welfare facilities, restricted access, restricted area and working areas. And site safety will cover your PPE all the times. Keep the tidy site. Do not put yourself or others at risk, or never work in unsafe area. And site rules will the working time 8 to 5 p.m. Follow the site signs and rules. If you don't know, please don't hesitate to ask. And control measures, using correct PPE, using right tools, including control noise and dust, limiting number of people at particular task. Incident reporting rules, incident must be reported at event of accidents. Emergency procedure, stay calm, access the situation, follow the site emergency rules, take command of the situation, aid and manage. And hazard risks that are unique to the site. So in restricted areas, dust and noise, safety documents and policies, health and safety policy. And checklist, CSCS card, will check, validate and end of the induction, risk and method statement signings, filling the induction form. Thank you. Back to Dan again.
So I'm just going to go back to Emmanuel now. Just going to explain the documents we'll have on site, what kind of things we'll have, and where they'll be stored on site. So I'll pass back to Emmanuel.
Hello again. So for the document control, we have a procedure to keep in place documented all the important documents. So one of them will be building plans and specifications, building permits and inspection records. The third one, occupational health and safety guidelines and records, environmental permits and records, material safety data sheets, which is very important for all chemicals on site, contract and agreements with subcontractors, suppliers and clients, daily logs and reports of site activities, including work progress, safety incidents and material deliveries. Thank you all. Hand back over to Dan.
So I'm just going to run over the permissions and notifications, some of them that we've had to get on the site. So there is a few. We've arranged with the local authority for the hedge that runs through the site around the boundary to the new car park to be removed. We don't have authority to do this ourselves, so we have got that in place. We contacted the government, been granted a felon license to remove a 15-year-old beech tree that's where the new entrance to the new car park is planned to be. Of course, it will have to be removed as it's in the way, so we can do that now. We've contacted local authority to give us permissions to close the road on the opening day of site so that all deliveries, equipment, materials can be delivered, hopefully without much delay to getting work started. We've been granted permission, as I mentioned earlier, from the landlord to use the factory that's on the site, so for materials and tool storage. And kindly, the offices that we actually are working right next to, they've granted us permission to use the car park there for our car parking, deliveries, materials to be dropped off, etc. And finally, there was some soil that was actually contaminated in a section of the ground that we'll be excavating. We've arranged with a licensed company to come and remove this and then take it away from site and dispose of that correctly. So we've put that in place too. We have got some additional points that we will be doing as well, just to try and go the extra mile really and getting the project to go well. We'll be putting in place a housekeeping policy. So we'll, as mentioned earlier in one of the traffic plans, we'll be getting a road sweeper, come and sweep the roads, keep them clean from any traffic that might be leaving with dirty tyres and so on. We'll have the waste management plan and procedure in place, making sure the site is kept clean, rubbish is put into any skips or bins on site. The hours of work and break policies. So we'll stick to the hours of work for neighbouring people. There'll be breaks all at the same time again, so it might reduce some noise pollution in the area. We will be taking into consideration neighbouring properties a lot. We'll be sending them regular newsletters, updates on any work that we might be doing. If there may be more noise on one day, we'll let them know just so they're aware. Try and keep them happy and in the loop. And of course, all our employees, anybody working with us, will be trained and competent where required when carrying out work. So we do want to make sure that we get this all in place as well. And that's the end of this. And I'd like to invite any questions now, if anyone has any.
And let's give it a round of applause as is traditional. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, then can we have the first question, please?
Can I ask, how long is the contract going to last for? As the size of the job, it's.
Yeah, we did get in place. Hopefully 3 weeks, looking to turn it around, and that's what we've originally got in place there. As I've mentioned, then in the additional points, if it was to go over, we'll inform anyone in the local area just so they're kept up to date, and any plans they may have, they'll of course be aware that the works will still be going on.
Okay, Dan, cheers. Do you think over 21 days, you've got like 24-hour periods where you've got 4 security guards on the job? Is that sort of like reasonable, practical, cost-wise, having four per day?
I hope so. I mean, I hope Gary might be able to give me a bit of a hand, see if he's got any input on the security here. But I mean, it will be expensive. We know that, but hopefully it'll be worth it, because there is going to be equipment on site, materials. We do need to keep all secure and make sure that nobody and no member of the public gets any access to that, as it could, of course, make the job more expensive if anything was to go missing. So hopefully it'll work out for us in the end to choose that path.
Okay, cheers, Dan.
Just on the back of security, you said your out of hours that you've got there, it's quite a robust system of phoning site managers. Would we not be better using any security company to take care of out of hours security?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that in the sort of handover regarding security. The security company have a mobile, because it's through a contractor, they don't work for us, so I forgot to mention it would go to their central control, and then they would obviously contact the relevant people. So there is a mobile driver if needed to come out, but it does go through them, and then it does that phone system. So they would ring the relevant people. It wouldn't be the guard actually. It'd be the security guard. It'd be his control.
Dan, you've mentioned about storage requirements. You're going to keep all your materials in the old factory there.
Yeah.
Building a new access, you'll have a lot of non-durable materials. Is there big enough means of access and egress from that factory for the plant to shift the hardcore and the materials you're going to need for that job you're doing?
Yeah, so there's 2 stories of there. We're planning on hand tools and lighter materials to go up to the second floor, locked away. any of the larger equipment, there'll be a large entry point for any plant to get in, get them out as needed through, like I said, through an entry point there. There is a lot of space on the ground floor for, of course, these larger, more hardcore materials to be kept as well.
Cheers.
With up to 25 people on site, how many first aiders were you going to have on site? And did you have a first aid facility for that?
There will be a first aid facility in of course, the offices. I don't know if it was pointed out, but yeah, in the cabins there will be. We've probably looked to hopefully have 5. Well, we will have 5 trained first aiders on site as well for any relevant needs.
So can I just kick in there as well? Because we're also going to make sure that all our workers are trained in basic first aid. So if it's a tier 1 accident, the worker there, all our workers will make sure they have basic first aid training.
Got time for one more question if anybody's got one.
Just wanted to ask a quick question as well, Dan. I just wanted, did you do anything in particular to lower the risk on site? I mean, or eliminate by your measures taken there?
Eliminate the risk on what, sorry?
Eliminate the risk or no risk at all. I mean, eliminate a procedure in order to lower the risk at the minimum.
For
anything.
Oh, anything.
Anything in your measures, just to minimize the risk at the maximum.
Yeah, we have. We're of course taking as many points as we can really to lower any risks on site. We don't want any accidents. We want it to be a nice clean job. Meet the time frame and then get gone. But we are hoping to reduce any risk on site of anything happening.
Okay, then, thank you.
That's 5 minutes. Let's give it a round of applause. Come on. Yeah. Yeah, baby. Right. Let me just stop the recording.